Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's Business Support Series webinar. I'm Bill Murphy, Senior Vice President of Economic Development here at the Tulsa Regional Chamber. The Chamber's Business Support Series offers insights on how your organization can effectively respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. If there is an area where the Chamber can be of assistance, we want you to let us know. If you're a regular participant in these webinars, you've undoubtedly realized I'm not the normal MC, Mike Neal. I'm here instead today because the Business Support Series is specifically in celebration of National Economic Development Week. Tulsas Future is the public-private regional economic development partnership led by the Tulsa Regional Chamber. Now in its third phase, Tulsas Future has generated $1.9 billion in new capital investment and helped create more than 16,000 new jobs since 2016. And since its inception in 2005, Tulsas Future has supported the creation of nearly 70,000 jobs in Northeast Oklahoma. First and foremost, Tulsas Future would not be possible without our regional investors and our regional partners. And we are really honored to have two of our regional partners with us today. Chelsea Levo Feary from the city of Owasso and Dave Stewart from MidAmerica Industrial Park in Pryor. They join us here today for a very special edition of this Business Support Series. Before we hear from our speakers, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors of the Business Support Series. They are Lugza Enterprises, Stride Bank, Security Bank, and Expert Ready. We are pleased to have with us John Cavanaugh, co-founder and CEO of Expert Ready, to introduce today's speaker. John?
Thank you, Bill. It's really an honor to join everyone today and introduce our speakers. First, David Stewart is the Chief Administrative Officer and Trustee of the Oklahoma Ordnance Works Authority, located in Pryor, Oklahoma. The authority owns and operates MidAmerica Industrial Park, and Stewart was appointed to this position by Governor Mary Fallin in December of 2012. MidAmerica Industrial Park is home to more than 80 companies in diverse industries, which collectively employ approximately 4,500 people. Current companies that operate at the park include Google, DuPont, ConocoPhillips, among others. And Chelsea Levo Feary. She's an economic development director, or the economic development director for the city of Owasso, and she's worked with Owasso for more than 12 years. Her economic development work focuses on business retention and expansion, small business development, workforce development, job creation, research, data mining, marketing, and public affairs. Chelsea is a graduate from the University of Oklahoma Economic Development Institute, and she is a certified economic developer. David and Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Would you like me to go ahead, Bill?
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Chelsea, David, and John, for joining us today. I'd like to again thank Expert Ready, Lux Enterprises, Security Bank, and Stride Bank for their support series. So I think that with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Dave.
Okay, thanks, Bill, and thanks, everyone, and good morning. You know, my history with Tulsas Futures goes back, and Mike, you'll remember this, back as a founding member of the organization back in my Cherokee Nation days, and it's good to see us continue the good work, and we always said that it takes a few years to get this rolling, and it is now rolling, and so it's really good to see it happen. I'll talk a little bit about MidAmerica in terms of scale. We're at about a footprint of about 10,000 acres, of which more than half is occupied by the 80 companies that John mentioned. Currently, we're under a massive master planning process, and that is 80% complete, with over half of the remaining acres shovel ready with water and waste treatment and utilities to the site. We operate the water treatment plant and the waste treatment plant that serves not only the members of the park here, but also the surrounding rural water districts. So, I'll get to that in a minute, but we are essential service, and we did go through some different processes. So we're eighth largest in the world, third largest in the US, and then largest in the Midwest. So a lot of scale. Google continues to expand. It's their second largest facility. So management of that keeps us busy. With regard to COVID, Mays County has had 24 cases and 4 deaths, of which probably half of those 2 had some comorbidity issues. So most of the response from the park has been, I would say, proactive and not reactive. The park's business continues to operate, and it was good to see the dynamic, the difference between retail and industrial, because while the retail sector is suffering, we see the industrial sector still, they've been hit somewhat, but fundamentally they keep operating, and they've come up with creative ways to work around the issue. Manufacturing is very structured, so they've integrated all of the standard COVID procedures that have been talked about enough. But in addition, we had one company that created residency on site with a $10,000 bonus to those employees that participated with 14-day turnaround. So they followed the quarantine issue. Very interesting. They kept operating. They operate around the clock. So that was probably one of the most creative activities that we saw. In terms of companies that contributed to the COVID effort, Cascade Paper is a new tenant to the park. They purchased their assets of Orchids, and they provided paper products to the hospital. Hospital called me, I called Cascade, and they immediately were able to deliver on-site paper products, toilet paper, and so on, which was distributed to not only the hospital, but to nursing homes and other areas in need. Ray Corporation specializes in air conditioning units, and they designed a unit that would provide negative air to mobile hospital units. And I think that mobile air would turn within 8 hours. So they were heavily involved and reacted very quickly. They have a lot of self-design capability, so it makes them a little unique. And so they had US presence in their capability, which was very neat to see. Internally, we have our new technology center open, and we use the 3D printers to create a reusable mask. And that mask, most of them are throwaway. So we created that product, and we're partnering with another company. They received money from the state in the Rebound program to fund it. So they'll be up and running probably in 3 weeks, and we have the right to the first 4,000 masks. So that was fun, but that involved our people, our technology center, and then a local company, and then the state. So we saw a full circle on that. Very proud of our work there. In terms of what MidAmerica did, we acted as more of, I guess, a dumping ground of information, and we accumulated that, and then worked with the Chamber of Commerce to distribute that out to all of our companies. Our BR&E program is well underway, so we had all of the contact information. So we were able to accumulate, and this was just random information. We just felt like, you don't know who has what information, so we just put it all together, and as needed, we distributed that out to all of our companies, and then they in turn sent us information, and then we sent it back out. So it was really just a give and take of information throughout the park, and then eventually with the region, with the Chamber of Commerce and prior involved. With regard to our essential services, as I indicated, we provide water to the surrounding rural water districts as well as to the park. So what we did is we just changed our shifts. We did provide some incentive for our employees to stay quarantined as a requirement, and then their families. So we did compensate them, and we made sure that we didn't have 2 people there at once, and we had 1 on call. We had no incidences of COVID, and everybody followed the rules, and I'm very pleased with how everyone here at MidAmerica reacted, but also within the park, because we did not see any significant slowdown. Some did, just because of the nature of the beast. But and in terms of construction, I thought construction would slow down, but it did not. We have several projects underway. The district, which is a 30,000 square foot multi-use development, it continued without fail. And then we have a 100,000 square foot tilt-up building that continued without fail. So I'm very pleased to see that the foundation or fabric of industry and construction continue to work through this. So that's my report. I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone might have, whatever the schedule is, Bill.
I think we'll save questions to the end, Dave, but
Okay.
encourage folks to utilize the chat function to record any questions that they may have, and we'll get to them as we can. With that, I think we're up. Chelsea, you're up.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this today. I know Dave gave a brief history of his time with Tulsas Future, and I just have to say, especially for Mike Neal's sake, that my history with the Tulsa Chamber is that I am a former employee, and Mike Neal was a great boss. So thanks so much. I love whenever kind of things make their way through the circle, and here I am to be a part of this forum. So thanks so much. Love what the Chamber does. We love being a regional partner. Obviously, as all economic developers and communities have had to do in the midst of COVID-19, is we've had to pivot our programs in the pandemic. And so if Morgan, if you'll advance to the next slide, we did as a lot of people did, as the Chamber did and the state did, and everyone seemed to develop a COVID-19 resource page on our website. And our Choose Owasso website is our economic development website. And we actually had some discussions with our businesses for a week prior to actually going forth with the site, because so many other resources were out there. We were asking our businesses, would it help you if we had a site, or do you want us to keep referring you to others? And there was a comfort level from our businesses with us being able to provide the information, even if we're just providing links to other sites. It was a comfort level for them. So we went forward with that, and we were pretty pleased with that, and we were able to keep it updated as well. And then, of course, we sent out a lot of information to our businesses. I have to say that as we had to kind of pivot our program of work, it was good that we were able to actually gain some additional information from our businesses that we've been trying to get for some time. And it's funny whenever things kind of force you in a different situation, and we were able to collect information on how to contact our businesses that we previously had not been able to get that information in the past because of this situation. They knew that we were going to be sending information out. They'd either heard that we had started from other businesses, or just from having conversations with them that we were going to be contacting them. So we actually were able to add probably about 50 additional contact information, email addresses to our list of now approaching 600 businesses in Owasso. And so we started sending out weekly messages to our businesses to give updates, mainly sharing information that is coming from federal or state or our local government, or from the chambers, whether it be the Tulsa Chamber, the U.S. Chamber, just being able to share some resources to our businesses. And what we gained from that was that businesses felt that they were more comfortable to reach out to us individually. We started having some great conversations with them about some of their anxieties, some of the things that they were experiencing. And then we started to really be able to connect them to resources, whether it was that they were looking for PPE, or that they were just trying to figure out who's the best person to contact to apply for an SBA loan. So we were effective, I think, in these communications, and we're going to continue them. And then on the next slide, just to kind of point out, one of our programs is Business Thrive, and that's our business retention and expansion program. And it got off the ground last summer, and we started conducting 2 in-person business visits per month. We had conducted about 11 since June of 2019, just due to reschedulings or things like that. So we made an adjustment to the program in the midst of COVID, realizing that phone calls are going to be more productive and safer at this time. So we're going to do some phone calls starting this month, and probably much more than 2. Gosh knows I've made more than 2 just in the last 2 days. And then we'll reevaluate this in July on how that's working and if we want to continue this or resume in-person business visits. Another thing that we do is a roundtable luncheon or a breakfast with our businesses. We started that in September, and we have done several industries since then. And because of COVID, we can't do these roundtables anymore, at least not the way that we were doing them. So instead, our adjustment that we're making, and we're pretty excited about this, it starts next week, is we are going to conduct one industry-specific business roundtable Zoom call per week. And we are going to blast through these industries that we have separated out by NAICS codes in bite-sized pieces. And we're going to gather them for an hour every week on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. And we're going to continue these through December, because we think that this is a good way for people to get into a safe place and and we have found already just with some of our programs that we've adjusted that these Zoom calls we are gaining more participation from our businesses. They don't have to drive, leave their work and drive anywhere. They can stay right where they are, and we find that they're pretty vocal and able to share in those meetings very well. So we're excited about starting those. Some other things that we've done, as I've mentioned, is that we've been contacting our businesses regularly. I mean, every day we're reaching out to them, or they're reaching out to us. They all have my cell phone number now, so I hear from them at all hours, which is fine. We've also had to redirect our strategic plan activities that we started a few years ago. And actually one of them, an example is we have a workforce group, Workforce Owasso. And so their in-person meeting is meeting via Zoom. They have met 2 times via Zoom, and they're meeting again today. And it's very effective. There's a lot of workforce issues, and whenever you're able to get employers together to collaborate on those issues in a time like this, via Zoom, it's very effective. And we're actually finding there's more employers that are able to jump on those calls than they have been able to make it to those luncheons. So we love that we are seeing some change even in the midst of some rough situations. So we're going to also probably pivot a little bit on our strategic plan to actually seek out some innovation and some entrepreneurs during this time to try to get more resources to them and to be able to introduce them to some things that are going to help them get those products into the market and help them with their innovation. So I think that even though we're definitely in a different time. I mean, Owasso is a typical bedroom community. We have a lot of small businesses. We have a lot of retail. We have a lot of healthcare industry in our community. We have 2 hospitals. We have several dentists and eye doctors and chiropractors in our community that are glad to be able to get back to work, but realize that that's going to be a lot slower for them. So in a survey that we put out to our businesses last week that asked them one question, and that was, when are you going to be able to, get your business geared back up again? We recognize that most of the businesses in Owasso are considered essential and never closed. The next biggest group are opening right now, between now and the 15th. And then the next group are opening between the 15th of May and the 15th of June. And a lot of those are those personal care services that I had just talked about. So we'll continue to work with them and make sure that everyone's being safe. But I think right now it's just, it's trying to communicate what our city council is pushing out there, and that's personal, be very responsible, be safe. It is about personal responsibility, but please think about the other person as well as yourself. So I think that, and there's our last little slide there, because we love that. We like to keep our town Owasso.
Great. Thank you, Chelsea and Dave. We really appreciate, and just on a personal note, I've really enjoyed working with you all over the past 2.5 years, from helping us on our call trips to meet with site consultants to coordinating our business retention and working together on our marketing strategies. It's a real pleasure to have two professionals like you working in partnership with us, doing economic development in our region. As I mentioned earlier on, prior to Dave and Chelsea's comments, we will not be able to take live questions on the call, but we do have some questions that were submitted ahead of time. And I'd like to pose those, a couple of those to both Dave and to Chelsea. Let's start with this one. Every business and industry has had to make changes to the way they operate because of COVID-19. How has your work as an economic development professional changed during this time? I know, Chelsea, if you'd like to start off, you mentioned a couple of specifics. Anything else you'd like to add to that before I go to Dave?
I think that that our program of work has completely changed right now. Even though we are still doing, we have the functionality and the disciplines as economic developers. The way that we are delivering those services is very different now. Right now it's a real desire to make sure that all of our businesses know that we're here, to know that there are resources out there, because we're a community of so many small businesses. There are a lot of them out there that all they know of is that maybe there's a chamber of commerce and City Hall's a place where they pay their water bill. So we just want to make sure that they know that there is an Office of Economic Development that's available to them, and that we can help connect them to resources in the time of their needs.
Dave, you and I and our teams focus on both our existing businesses and also attracting new investment to our community from outside companies. I know one of the innovative things that your team has done is taken a little different approach to engaging those site consultants that work with those companies, where we would go visit with them. You guys did something really pretty creative. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, we had some STEM kits that we sent out to the site selectors to their house for their kids. And of course, everybody's at home, they're looking for things to do. And we just found those little things that we did just made a huge impact, because they just have a different mentality and they're at home. So those activities were fairly interesting on the result. So that was one. And then internally, we held our first bid opening for a major project virtually. So we actually had the contractors, get into Zoom, and they were part of it, but that was a little different. We conducted our trustee meeting virtually. So that was a first for the park. And then also, we had flex time here, so everybody was kind of free to go with kind of a 60% requirement of being away. So we did that internally. And then I think just cleaning house and getting our house in order and how we present, and thinking more about the detail of how we present our property. It gave us a lot of time to just kind of rethink what we're doing. And I think that's happening across the country. And we'll see some different things come out of this over the next 60 days, where people just say, hey, we were doing that wrong, let's do it this way. So I think we'll see that coming up.
Great, Dave. Thanks to you and Chelsea. We've got just under 5 minutes left on our phone call. So I think I'd like to turn over the last question to John. John, would you mind asking our final question to our panelists?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, how are you working with area partners and companies to address workforce and talent challenges? I can elaborate a little bit there if you'd like. And I think, Chelsea, you touched on some of these things already, and I love hearing how much of a personal approach that the city of Owasso has taken with businesses. It's very impressive, and I think that's something that we can all learn from, whether it's our customers or other things. But if people are losing employees or they're needing more, how is the city and other the economic development community just getting involved in that process, that conversation?
I think from our perspective, the dust is still settling. I think most of the companies that we talked to did not see a large exodus. They took steps to keep them on board, and because we're not retail, then the people here at MidAmerica have been working in these jobs for years. There's very little turnover. They're very solid. They're very loyal. And so what we found was there may be cases of that, but fundamentally nobody left. And we reminded them, we were positioned with our training center, and we have a staffing agency on site that we partner with. So we were positioned with them to react with all of the resources that we have. And we just didn't see everybody calling and saying, we need you to do this. We had one-offs, but fundamentally we didn't have to go to that kind of red, yellow, green stoplight approach but we were positioned with those resources to do that.
Thank you for that, Chelsea.
I think one of the neat things that we saw in Owasso was that while a lot of our in-dining restaurants and retail stores were having to lay people off, they were referring them to other businesses in Owasso that were actually hiring more, like delivery-based, like food delivery-based restaurants, as well as pharmacies that were beefing up on their employees as well. So I saw a lot of communication between small businesses on, hey, we have to lay these people off for a while, but maybe you could hire them into these positions. Others were more honest about that they encouraged their employees to go ahead and apply for unemployment until they got approved for the PPP loans. And then whenever they got those, they were able to hire them back. And then they shared those success stories with us whenever they were able to hire their employees back, which was great. So I think that sharing some of that with our businesses whenever they asked us about what to do with some of their workforce issues, what was our role at the time, as well as then just reaching out to our regional partners, whether it be at the Tulsa Chamber or even just around the region. Suburbs, even though we may rival in some areas, we really are demographically very much alike. And in these times, we have found that we have been great support systems for each other, because when it comes to having to make a lot of these tough decisions, we're all having to make the same kind of decision. So this has been a really great time to share resources among one another.
Thank you so much for that.
Again, thank you so much, Chelsea, Dave, and John, for joining us today. Again, one more time, I'd like to thank Expert Ready, Lux Enterprises, Security Bank, and Bank for their support of these series. It really does mean a lot to the Chamber. To anyone who came in late, called in by phone, or would like to share this webinar, a recording will be posted on the Chamber's website later today, as are all the business support series. Our next business support series webinar will be again this Thursday, May 7th at 11 a.m. Amy Ratliff with Arrowhead Consulting and Rebecca Hubbard with the Mental Health Association of Oklahoma. We'll discuss efforts of herd mentality on behavior and mental health during times of crisis. And since it's Economic Development Week, stay tuned to the Chamber's social media accounts for additional announcements throughout the week. Biggest of all, and again, an action-packed Thursday, we will host a talent strategy symposium with renowned author and urban theorist Richard Florida on Thursday, May 7th at 1 p.m. Again, we know we're asking a lot of your time on Thursday, May 7th, but it will be worth your time. For those of you who don't know Richard, Florida, you're in for a real treat. You can register for all of our upcoming virtual events on tulsachamber.com/events. Advanced registration is required for all of our webinars, so please go ahead and register for those events. Also, to help businesses that are reopening to do so safely as possible, the Tulsa Regional Chambers has just completed an Open for Business guide incorporating best practices from national, state, and local authorities. That guide is now available on the COVID-19 resource page on tulsachamber.com. I encourage you to check it out. Our team has worked with their peers across the country to really assemble a very concise document to help businesses understand what they do, what they need to do in order to reopen safely. Finally, please don't hesitate to reach out to chamber staff if we can get assistance of any type to your business. Thank you for joining us today, and happy Economic Development Week.